Hi, I'm in Scotland. I've been following you for a little while on Facebook and I love all your poetry. And I kind of came across the Moda's teachings like way before I knew who you were. And then I began to listen to your podcasts together and they've just really helped me on this journey to find myself, to be with myself. And I'm so touched by your share. I really am. Um, I feel that a lot of my trauma was embodied. So my history was addiction. For 25 years, I was abusing substances, and I did end up involved in the medical model because I went into treatment and I was on methadone for 5 years. And it's just, I mean, that was only the beginning of the healing. That was only a very small part of it. But what I found, like much later on, after many attempts at talking therapy, was that I found like a somatic healing circle in Edinburgh near where I live. And I just thought I was going on a yoga retreat, and it turned out to be all this trauma release stuff. And mentally at this stage, I felt reasonably healthy and happy, but there was so much that was in my body that was released in this weekend. And I kind of continued to do some of the somatic work. So I love how you refer to the gut, because quite often as a trauma survivor, like I felt like feelings in the pit of my stomach, and even for many years after treatment, I was in fight or flight and I had lots of triggers. So it's fascinating, and it's fascinating to hear you talk about non-dual inquiry and honoring the human within us, because I do sometimes find with some of these non-dual teachings that you're almost expected to bypass all of that, like you never really suffered. And I understand that there's this part of me, this consciousness that didn't suffer, but there's something around looking at the suffering and going deeper within yourself to know something. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course it does. Yes, it does, because there is a tendency, that drives some of the spiritual narrative in the more extreme non-dual kind of environments to see on the flip side the over fixation with the fixing of the body, with the over identification, actually has its own problems. It leads to it leads down a rabbit hole of identification ultimately. And so it's like what we've arrived at, what I've arrived at is it possible for us to hold both, to not in a way that divides them up, but actually hold the human experience. The human experience is here, is happening. There is something happening here, whether one wants to say it's not, or there is no suffering, or anything like that, is against logic in some ways. We are here. This is the experience that we're having. But to the thing with suffering, for instance, you can understand why the spiritual side, the high spiritual side, says there's no suffering, because actually on a certain level there is no suffering, there is no experience, there is nothing happening. But to live from that place means that we have to deny our human experience, and it just doesn't work. So the capacity to hold this actually opens us up. It opens up the heart. It opens up those parts of us that actually need to be opened up, because then we arrive at these places of like tenderness towards the human experience. Tenderness towards suffering is a much more compassionate approach than denial of suffering. It just is. And it actually can result, not necessarily, but it does result in a certain healing, because the ultimate healing that most human beings are seeking is the healing of the separation wound.
Yes.
It's ultimately, it's that. It's not just the fixing of the body. It's actually the healing of me being fearful as a separate entity. It's like the yearning to return to love, not the love of another human being, but the love of unconditionality. And so you can't get there by denial. You can't get there. It doesn't work like that. It's not the way that natural law, if you like, works. So it has to be embraced, as you pointed out. And that's a journey. That's the journey.